Hey, happy Friday, everybody. It is time for the Friday Five. We've done it. We have reached the end of the work week. We are staring down the weekend, and we're going to kick that off by taking a look to see what God might have to say to us through His Word. So I really appreciate you joining me here today. I am anxious to share this passage with you. And it's a book of the Bible that I've literally heard some people tell me that they like to avoid. And that's the book of Job. and may I tell you, there is no book of the Bible that you need to be afraid of. There is no book of the Bible that you need to avoid because it makes you nervous or makes you scared. Okay? So let's get that out of our minds. Rather, Job, who lost everything, Job, who was stricken like nobody will ever be stricken. He went through some hard stuff, but there are some incredible lessons in our relationship with God that we can learn from this man, who was a godly man that the Lord had the utmost confidence in. I want to take you to chapter 23, verses 11 through 13, and I want to show you something about you that I think is going to encourage you here today. Take a look at this. Starting in verse 11 of Job 23, it says, "For I have stayed on God's paths. I have followed His ways and not turned aside. I have not departed from His commands, but have treasured His words more than daily food." Now here's the part I love here. "But once He has made His decision, who can change His mind? Whatever He wants to do, He does." So what's Job saying here? Okay, now Job was surrounded by people in the midst of his grief, in the midst of his difficulties. He was surrounded by some people that weren't necessarily the most uplifting people in the world. Okay, including his wife, who just told him, "Hey, curse God and die." Wow, thanks, honey. Job rather is giving kind of a testimony of his commitment to the Lord. He says, "I've stayed on the path that God has for me. I've followed His ways. I haven't turned aside from those things. I've not departed from His commands. I have treasured His words more than daily food." And let me just pause here before I get to verse 13. Let me pause here and just say that what a great example Job is to us. That even in the midst of the battle, and even in the midst of the hardship, and even in the midst of people influencing him to compromise, he still remained solid with God. He still retained his integrity, even though he was not comfortable. There's a lesson to be learned here that we still, even if we're facing difficulty, even if things are uncomfortable, we still have got to be passionate about keeping our integrity and keeping our relationship with Him in place. What a great example. But did you know that God has a very specific plan for you? And He has had that plan for you since you were born. And He's got a purpose for you, no matter who you are. And a lot of times when people say this, people think, "Oh, no, I'm not supposed to preach." I'm not talking about you becoming a preacher. I'm just saying, what is God's specific plan for you? God's got a purpose for you in the world that He has put you in the community that He has put you in, with the giftings and the talents that He's assigned to you and given to you. He's got a purpose for you. And this last verse says that once God's made that decision, who's going to change His mind? Whatever He wants to do, He does. So listen to me. There is nothing that you can do, and there is nothing that anyone else can do that can keep you from being in God's perfect plan. You don't think you're adequate? God does. Other people think that you should just forget about it. God says, "No, I've got a purpose for you." Those people are not the boss. Those people are not the ones that are in charge. God says, "I'm in charge of you. And no man's going to change my mind." So God's got a purpose for you, friend, and he has a plan for you. He wants to use you. He wants to do great things in you and through you, and there is nothing can be done to stop that. And I hope you know that today. I hope you realize that throughout the entire weekend, that there is nothing that can be done that's going to keep God's plan from being fulfilled in your life. And I hope that blesses you today. All right, I got to let you go. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and God bless you. We love you, and Lord willing, we'll see you on Monday, okay? You take care. Bye-bye.